You wake up exhausted, even after a full night's sleep. Your mind races, your heart feels heavy, and every task seems overwhelming. You're not lazy, you're burned out. Emotional burnout is silently destroying your energy, your focus, and your joy, and most people don't even realize it's happening. Are you one of them? Think about your day-to-day life. You wake up, check emails, scroll through social media, rush through tasks, and by the evening, your mind is exhausted, your body feels heavy, and your emotions are drained. You try to push through, pretending everything is fine, but inside you feel empty, overwhelmed, and constantly on edge. Is emotional burnout a silent epidemic of modern life? You're not alone in feeling this way. Millions are silently struggling, carrying invisible weight, and desperately searching for a way to regain their energy, clarity. Says 1. Understanding emotional burnout. Emotional burnout is more than just feeling tired or stressed. It's a state where your mind, body, and emotions are pushed to their limits, leaving you drained, disconnected, and numb. You might feel like you're constantly running on empty, like life is a series of tasks. You're barely surviving rather than moments you're living. The exhaustion isn't just physical. It's deeply emotional, affecting how you think, feel, and relate to others. Burnout often sneaks up slowly. One day, you're pushing through a busy schedule, taking on responsibilities, caring for others, and trying to keep everything together. The next day, you wake up feeling heavy, unmotivated, and detached, wondering why life feels so overwhelming. Your energy disappears, patience thins, and even small tasks become monumental. Understanding emotional burnout is the first step in regaining control. It's about recognizing the signs: constant fatigue, irritability, lack of motivation, and emotional emptiness, and acknowledging that this is not a weakness. Burnout is a response to prolonged stress and emotional strain, and it signals that your mind and body need attention, care, and balance. Without this awareness, the exhaustion continues silently, eroding your creativity, joy, and ability to connect with yourself and others, making life feel heavier with each passing day. 2. Chronic stress as the core. At the heart of emotional burnout lies chronic stress, a silent, relentless force that slowly drains your mental and emotional energy. It's not the occasional busy day or a one-time challenge that breaks you. It's the constant pressure from work, personal obligations, social expectations, and even the endless flow of news and digital distractions. Over time, this stress compounds, leaving your mind and body perpetually on high alert, unable to rest or recharge. You wake up with tension in your shoulders, your thoughts racing even before your feet touch the floor. Throughout the day, deadlines, messages, and responsibilities pull at every corner of your attention, leaving barely a moment to breathe. Stress doesn't just vanish at the end of the workday. It follows you home, seeps into your relationships, and lingers in the quiet moments. Meals become rushed, sleep becomes restless, and joy feels distant. Chronic stress is insidious because it convinces you that this is normal, that everyone struggles this way. But the truth is, your emotional energy is being silently siphoned, and without intervention, burnout becomes inevitable. Recognizing that stress is not just an inconvenience, but the core driver of emotional exhaustion is the key to breaking the cycle and reclaiming your vitality, focus, and sense of purpose. F53. Ignoring your emotions. One of the most overlooked causes of emotional burnout is the habit of ignoring your own emotions. In the rush of modern life, you prioritize tasks, deadlines, and other people's needs, often pushing aside your feelings, fears, and frustrations. You tell yourself to be strong, to keep going, to not let your emotions interfere. But in reality, each suppressed feeling adds weight to your emotional burden. Ignoring emotions doesn't make them disappear, it stores them inside, quietly accumulating like tension in a spring. Small irritations, anxieties, or disappointments pile up day after day, creating an invisible pressure that your mind and body must carry. You may not even realize how much this affects your energy, focus, and relationships until it reaches a breaking point. By neglecting emotional awareness, you rob yourself of a vital tool for coping. Emotions are signals. They tell you what matters, what hurts, and what needs attention. When you ignore them, the messages get lost, leaving you feeling numb, detached, or overwhelmed. Emotional burnout thrives in this silence, feeding off the unacknowledged stress and inner tension, leaving you disconnected from yourself and slowly eroding the vitality, creativity, and joy that once made life feel meaningful. E54. Overworking without boundaries. In modern life, overworking has become a badge of honor, but constantly pushing yourself without boundaries is one of the fastest paths to emotional burnout. You might be checking emails late at night, taking calls during meals, or saying yes to obligations long after your energy has faded. The problem isn't the work itself, it's the lack of limits that allows it to consume every part of your life. Without boundaries, your personal time, rest, and emotional needs get sacrificed for productivity and external demands. Days blur together, weekends feel like an extension of the work week, and moments that should recharge you instead become another task on the endless to-do list. Even when you're physically present at home or with loved ones, your mind is occupied, leaving you detached and exhausted. Overworking without boundaries is dangerous because it convinces your mind and body that constant strain is normal. You ignore early warning signs, fatigue, irritability, loss of focus, and dismiss them as temporary. But over time, the relentless pace erodes your emotional reserves, leaving you depleted, resentful, and vulnerable to burnout. Recognizing that boundaries are not optional, but essential is the first step in reclaiming control, energy, and balance in your life. 5. Lack of self-care. Neglecting self-care is one of the most common yet damaging contributors to emotional burnout. In the pursuit of productivity, success, and responsibility, people often forget the basic elements that sustain their energy: adequate rest, nutritious food, physical activity, and activities that bring joy. When you consistently sacrifice your well-being for work, obligations, or others' expectations, your emotional reserves begin to deplete silently. Self-care is not a luxury, it's a necessity. Ignoring it sends a constant message to your mind and body that your needs are less important than your tasks or others' demands. Over time, this neglect manifests as fatigue, irritability, and emotional detachment. Even small, daily acts of self-care, like a short walk, mindful breathing, or eating well, can replenish your energy and reset your emotional balance. Yet many push these aside, believing they don't have time. Without self-care, the burnout cycle accelerates. Emotional exhaustion compounds, resilience diminishes, and minor stressors feel unbearable. Life loses its vibrancy, motivation wanes, and even relationships start to suffer. Reconnecting with self-care is not indulgence, it's the foundation for emotional stability, energy, and the ability to face life with clarity, presence, and strength. Afi 6. Negative thought patterns. Negative thought patterns act like a hidden drain on your emotional energy, quietly fueling burnout over time. When your mind is constantly critical, questioning your worth, worrying about the future, replaying past mistakes, it creates a relentless mental storm that leaves little room for peace, clarity, or joy. Thoughts like, I'm not enough, I can't handle this, or I'll never catch up, keep looping, reinforcing stress and exhaustion without any external triggers. These patterns are deceptive because they feel like normal self-reflection, yet they chip away at resilience, making every challenge heavier than it needs to be. You might notice that even small setbacks feel overwhelming, your patience wears thin, and motivation diminishes. Over time, these recurring mental loops amplify emotional burnout, making it hard to see opportunities, celebrate successes, or even feel gratitude. Breaking negative thought patterns requires awareness and intentionality. Recognizing when your mind drifts into self-criticism or worry is the first step toward reclaiming mental clarity. Left unchecked, patterns silently erode emotional strength, leaving you exhausted, disconnected, and trapped in a cycle of fatigue, doubt, and frustration. Your mind becomes both the battlefield and the prison of burnout, quietly dictating how drained and overwhelmed you feel each day. Second stage 7. Feeling unappreciated. A major driver of emotional burnout is the constant feeling of being unappreciated. You give your time, energy, and effort to work, friends, family, or projects, yet often acknowledgement and gratitude are minimal or absent. Over time, this imbalance leaves a lingering sense of emptiness and frustration, quietly draining your motivation and emotional energy. Feeling unappreciated isn't just about others' recognition. It's about your emotional investment being met with silence or indifference. You might stay late to help a colleague, support a friend in crisis, or manage responsibilities at home. But instead of feeling valued, the effort seems invisible. This invisibility creates a subtle, persistent loneliness where your contributions feel unnoticed and your heart grows weary of giving without reciprocal care or acknowledgement. When appreciation is missing, burnout accelerates. The mind begins to question, why am I doing all this? And even small tasks feel heavy. Emotional exhaustion seeps into relationships, work, and personal life, making connection, joy, and engagement harder to sustain. Recognizing the importance of appreciation, both receiving and giving, becomes vital for protecting emotional energy, maintaining motivation, and nurturing resilience in a world that often overlooks quiet dedication. EV8. Connect from passion and purpose. Emotional burnout often stems from a growing disconnect between your daily life and your deeper passions or sense of purpose. When work, routines, and obligations consume your time, activities that once inspired you, creative projects, hobbies, meaningful work, fade into the background. Without these sources of fulfillment, life can feel repetitive, empty, and devoid of energy. Disconnect leaves you feeling like you're merely surviving rather than truly living. You go through motions, complete tasks, and meet expectations, but the spark that once fueled motivation and joy is absent. Even small moments of accomplishment fail to uplift you because they lack personal meaning. The heart longs for significance, yet the mind is trapped in routine, creating a slow, persistent erosion of emotional vitality. When purpose is absent, burnout deepens. Energy dwindles, satisfaction diminishes, and life begins to feel heavy. Reconnecting with your passions, even in small ways, can reignite emotional reserves, restore motivation, and rebuild a sense of meaning. Without this reconnection, the emptiness grows quietly, leaving you emotionally drained and disengaged, no matter how busy or successful your external life may appear. 49. Poor support systems. One of the most overlooked contributors to emotional burnout is having a weak or absent support system. Even if you're managing responsibilities, working hard, and caring for others, the lack of emotional support from friends, family, or mentors leaves you carrying the entire weight alone. Without people to share your struggles with, offer guidance, or simply listen, stress and exhaustion build silently, deepening burnout. Support systems are more than just social presence. They provide validation, empathy, and perspective. When this is missing, even minor challenges feel overwhelming. You may try to cope alone, believing that asking for help is a burden, yet every unshared worry and unexpressed frustration adds to emotional fatigue. Over time, the absence of a supportive network erodes resilience, making it harder to bounce back from setbacks and maintain mental and emotional balance. Poor support systems amplify the sense of isolation that accompanies burnout. You can be surrounded by people, yet feel utterly alone in your experiences. Emotional energy dwindles, patience thins, and your ability to engage meaningfully in life decreases. Recognizing the need for authentic support and seeking it consciously is essential for sustaining energy, protecting emotional health, and breaking the cycle of silent exhaustion that modern life so often enforces. 10. Vicious cycle of fatigue. Emotional burnout often becomes a self-reinforcing cycle, a vicious loop where exhaustion feeds more exhaustion. When your energy is low, tasks feel heavier, decisions become harder, and your patience thins. Each small struggle compounds the next, creating a relentless feedback loop that deepens emotional fatigue and leaves you feeling trapped. This cycle begins subtly. You push through stress, ignore early warning signs, and sacrifice self-care, believing you'll recover later. But recovery doesn't come naturally when the emotional tank is empty. As fatigue grows, focus diminishes, mistakes multiply, and motivation wanes, in turn creates guilt and self-criticism. The more guilt you feel, the harder it is to rest or ask for support, and the cycle accelerates, leaving little room for joy or satisfaction. Over time, vicious cycle of fatigue not only drains your mind and body, but also impacts relationships, creativity, and overall quality of life. Even when opportunities to recharge appear, the exhaustion feels too heavy to embrace them. Recognizing this cycle is essential to break free. By acknowledging how fatigue compounds itself, you can take deliberate steps to interrupt the loop, restore energy, and regain control over your emotional, mental, and physical well-being. Remember, emotional burnout isn't just about feeling tired. It's a silent drain on your mind, body, and soul. Ignoring your emotions, overworking without boundaries, and losing touch with your purpose slowly steals your energy, motivation, and joy. Recognizing burnout is the first step toward reclaiming your life and emotional well-being. Right now, pause for a moment. Take one small step toward self-care today, whether it's a short walk, turning off notifications for an hour, journaling your feelings, or simply breathing deeply. Small, consistent steps help interrupt the cycle of fatigue and restore emotional energy. Even in the midst of exhaustion, hope is possible. When you start honoring your emotions, setting boundaries, and reconnecting with your passions, energy returns, focus sharpens, and joy finds its way back. Burnout is not permanent. You have the power to reclaim your life, one mindful step at a time. If this message resonated with you, share it with someone who needs it. For more motivational insights, guidance on mental clarity, and strategies to live a balanced, energized life, subscribe